The 2025 World Bank report, Nature-Based Solutions for Ports, an overview of NBS implementation in practice, opportunities and challenges, developed in partnership with leading research institutions such as Ecoshape, Deltares, Arcadis, Boskalis, HKV, Royal Haskoning HV, Van Oord, One Architecture, and the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, GFDRR, calls for a fundamental shift in port planning and management. The report draws on years of pilot projects, system-based research, and consultations with maritime and coastal experts to advocate for integrating nature-based solutions, NBS, as central components of port infrastructure. Rather than relying solely on rigid, traditional grey infrastructure, the document emphasizes the power of ecosystems, mangroves, dunes, reefs, salt marshes, and sediment processes to reduce operational risks, enhance climate resilience, and unlock new environmental and economic value. The report identifies 4 strategic NBS families, designed to tackle the 5 most common governance and operational challenges that ports face today: development constraints, climate risks, performance inefficiencies, asset maintenance burdens, and stakeholder relations. The first family, working with coastal systems, encourages ports to align infrastructure with natural geomorphological and hydrodynamic processes. For instance, at Lekki Port in Nigeria and Lome Port in Togo, sandbar breakwaters were designed to trap natural sediment flows, reduce material needs, and protect coastlines more sustainably. The second family, wave and coastal dynamics attenuation, promotes using vegetated foreshores, mangroves, reefs, and salt marshes to absorb wave energy. Jakarta Fishing Port offers a real-world case where reforested mangroves now serve as a protective buffer and enhance operability. The third family, the beneficial reuse of dredged sediments, transforms dredging waste into an asset by using it to build wetlands, reclaim land, and fortify coastlines. The Horseshoe Bend Island in the US is a notable case where dredged material was used to form a wetland that improved navigation and environmental quality. Finally, enhancing hard structures focuses on retrofitting existing infrastructure, like quay walls, with textured, ecologically supportive features. At the port of Vigo in Spain, specialized concrete elements were used to foster marine biodiversity while maintaining structural performance. Beyond introducing the families of solutions, the report outlines 6 critical enablers that make NBS successful: technology and system knowledge, continuous management and monitoring, strong business cases, institutional embedding, stakeholder engagement, and capacity development. These enablers are not just supportive tools but integral to the long-term viability of NBS. Adaptive management, for example, is crucial because ecosystems change over time and must be actively maintained. Monitoring protocols and flexible operational frameworks help ports respond effectively to variables such as erosion, sediment shifts, and sea level rise. Institutional embedding is also emphasized, ensuring NBS are reflected in port master plans, environmental permits, concession agreements, and national policy instruments. Stakeholder inclusion is framed as essential, not optional, with local communities, environmental groups, and port users all playing a part in co-design and acceptance. Training and education are needed across all sectors, including engineers, policymakers, financiers, and civil society, to create a workforce and governance structure capable of implementing and scaling nature-based infrastructure. A standout feature of the report is its attention to the economics of NBS. Financing is a common barrier, especially in early planning phases, yet the report provides clear pathways to make NBS financially viable. It advocates for embedding NBS into broader, revenue-generating infrastructure projects, thereby linking natural functions to commercial outcomes. Tools such as carbon credits, habitat banking, blue and green bonds, and value capture mechanisms like tax incentives or user fees are discussed. Risk reduction through insurance, bundling of NBS projects to attract capital, and building investor confidence through successful demonstrations are all seen as essential to scale investment. The report also recommends that ports work with financiers early in project development to align risk-return expectations and to explore performance-based financing models. The report urges port authorities and developers to consider NBS not as optional add-ons, but as essential tools for modern, resilient, and sustainable port governance. With real-world case studies, cost-benefit comparisons, visual guides, and a screening checklist for implementation. The document is both an advocacy piece and a practical manual. It acknowledges that not every port setting is suitable for all NBS interventions, but argues convincingly that nature-based approaches should always be explored at the outset of infrastructure planning. Beyond protecting cargo flows, NBS helps ports become better neighbors, reducing pollution, restoring ecosystems, generating livelihoods, and building social capital. In an era of rising seas, tightening regulations, and public scrutiny, NBS position ports not just to survive, but to lead in shaping a climate-resilient maritime economy. This report reframes nature not as a constraint on port development, but as a dynamic partner in shaping the next generation of infrastructure. Introduction. Ports are vital arteries of global trade, connecting economies and facilitating the movement of goods, people, and resources across continents. Traditionally, port development has prioritized maximizing economic efficiency through extensive infrastructure, often at the expense of environmental integrity. As climate change accelerates, sea level rise, increased storm intensity, and ecological degradation threaten port operations and surrounding communities. In response, a paradigm shift is underway, moving from conventional, hard-engineered port infrastructure to sustainable, nature-based solutions, NBS. These innovative approaches leverage natural processes and ecosystems to provide resilience, ecological benefits, and aesthetic enhancement, while supporting economic activities. This essay explores how nature-based solutions are transforming port planning, highlighting strategies, benefits, challenges, and future prospects. 1. The evolution of port planning and environmental concerns. 1.1 Traditional port development approaches. Historically, port development focused on expanding capacity through dredging, land reclamation, and constructing seawalls and breakwaters. These hard infrastructure solutions prioritize immediate economic gains but often lead to unintended environmental consequences such as habitat loss, erosion, and reduced biodiversity. 1.2 Environmental challenges facing ports. Modern ports face numerous environmental challenges. Climate change, rising sea levels, and increased storm surges threaten infrastructure and operations. Ecosystem degradation. Construction and industrial activities disrupt habitats like wetlands, mangroves, and estuaries. Flooding and erosion. Coastal erosion jeopardizes port facilities and surrounding communities. Loss of biodiversity. Habitat loss and pollution impact marine and coastal biodiversity. 1.3 The need for sustainable and resilient port planning. Recognizing these issues, port authorities and urban planners are adopting sustainable strategies that balance economic development with ecological health. Nature-based solutions emerge as a key component in this transition, offering multifunctional benefits. 2. Understanding nature-based solutions, NBS, in coastal and port contexts. 2.1 Definition and principles of NBS. Nature-based solutions are actions that utilize natural processes and ecosystems to address societal challenges, such as flooding, erosion, and biodiversity loss. They aim to work with nature rather than against it, integrating ecological functions into infrastructure design. 2.2 Types of NBS relevant to ports. Wetland restoration and creation, re-establishing marshes and estuaries to buffer storm surges. Mangrove afforestation, planting mangroves to stabilize coastlines and provide habitat. Living shorelines, utilizing natural features like oyster reefs or vegetated buffers to protect shorelines. Green infrastructure, incorporating vegetated areas, permeable pavements, and bioswales in port design. 2.3 Advantages of NBS. Resilience, enhanced capacity to withstand extreme weather events. Ecosystem services, improved water quality, habitat provision, carbon sequestration. Cost effectiveness, often less expensive than traditional engineering solutions. Aesthetic and recreational value, improved landscape quality and community well-being. Biodiversity conservation, supporting marine and coastal species. 3. Case studies, NBS in action in port planning. 3.1 The Port of Rotterdam, Netherlands. Context. As one of the world's largest ports, Rotterdam faces challenges from sea level rise and climate change. NBS application. The port has integrated living dikes, reinforced with natural vegetation, restoring tidal wetlands and creating multifunctional landscapes that serve as flood defenses, habitats, and recreational spaces. Outcomes: enhanced flood protection, increased biodiversity, and improved aesthetics. 3.2 The Port of Los Angeles, USA. Context: urban port adjacent to densely populated areas prone to flooding. NBS application: the port has implemented green infrastructure such as vegetated swales, rain gardens, and oyster reef installations along waterfronts to reduce runoff, improve water quality, and buffer storm impacts. Outcomes: improved resilience, water quality, and community engagement. 3.3 The Port of Singapore. Context: a highly developed port with limited land for expansion. NBS application: incorporation of mangroves and waterfront parks to act as natural buffers, improve biodiversity, and provide recreational spaces. Outcomes: increased ecological resilience and urban green space. 4. Strategies for integrating NBS into port planning. 4.1 Ecosystem-based design approaches. Designing port landscapes that mimic natural coastal systems, such as creating wetlands and vegetated buffer zones, to absorb wave energy and reduce erosion. 4.2 Hybrid infrastructure solutions. Combining hard engineering with natural features, for example, constructing seawalls integrated with green spaces or oyster reefs, to optimize protection and ecological benefits. 4.3 Adaptive management and monitoring. Implementing flexible management frameworks that monitor ecological performance and adapt strategies accordingly, ensuring long-term resilience. 4.4 Stakeholder engagement and community involvement. Engaging local communities, industries, and environmental groups to foster support, co-design solutions, and ensure social acceptance. 5. Benefits of NBS in port contexts. 5.1 Climate change adaptation and resilience. NBS provide adaptive capacity against sea level rise, storm surges, and erosion, safeguarding infrastructure and communities. 5.2 Environmental and ecological gains. Restoration of habitats enhances biodiversity, supports fisheries, and improves water quality. 5.3 Economic advantages. Reduced infrastructure costs, lower maintenance expenses, and potential for ecotourism and recreation. 5.4 Social and cultural benefits. Creating attractive, accessible waterfronts fosters community identity and enhances quality of life. 6. Challenges and limitations of NBS in port planning. 6.1 Technical uncertainties and performance risks. Natural systems can be complex and unpredictable, making outcomes less certain compared to engineered solutions. 6.2 Space constraints and land use conflicts. Ports often operate in densely developed areas with limited space for natural features. 6.3 Regulatory and policy barriers. Existing regulations may favor traditional infrastructure, requiring policy reform to facilitate NBS adoption. 6.4 Funding and investment challenges. Initial costs and long-term funding mechanisms can hinder implementation. 6.5 Maintenance and monitoring. Natural features require ongoing care to maintain functionality. 7. Policy and institutional frameworks supporting NBS. 7.1 International and regional initiatives. The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction emphasizes nature-based solutions. The European Union's Blue Growth Strategy promotes sustainable maritime development. 7.2 National and local policies. Incentives, regulations, and planning guidelines that prioritize ecological resilience and sustainable development. 7.3 Integrating NBS into port master plans. Embedding ecological considerations into strategic planning, zoning, and environmental assessments. 8. The future of greening ports, innovations and emerging trends. 8.1 Technological advances. Use of GIS, remote sensing, and modeling to design and monitor NBS performance. 8.2 Hybrid solutions and multifunctional infrastructure. Developing integrated systems that combine engineering and ecological features for maximum benefits. 8.3 Community-centered design. Fostering local stewardship and participatory planning processes. 8.4 Scaling up and replication. Learning from successful projects to expand NBS adoption globally. 9. Conclusion. The transformation of port planning through nature-based solutions represents a paradigm shift towards sustainable, resilient, and ecologically integrated waterfront development. While challenges remain, the benefits, environmental, economic, and social, underscore the importance of embracing NBS as core components of future port infrastructure. By working with nature rather than against it, port authorities and urban planners can create adaptive, multifunctional waterfronts that support economic vitality while safeguarding ecological integrity and community well-being. The future of port development lies in harnessing the power of natural ecosystems to foster resilience in an era of unprecedented environmental change.